Well, hi everyone, and welcome to the Buffett and Beyond Stock Analysis video podcast with your host, Dr. Joseph Belmonte, which is me, and Debbie with a Y. Hi, Debbie.
Oh, hello, that's me.
And these methodologies are based on the book Buffett and Beyond, second edition, published by Wiley Publishing. And remember, folks, if you want to live on the beach like Jimmy Buffett, you've got to learn how to invest like Warren Buffett. Now remember, folks, the clean surplus return on equity is both a comparable and a predictability model and is totally different than the traditional accounting return on equity. So don't get them mixed up. And you can equate the clean surplus return on equity as the interest rate you get from a bank. So this is common sense now. A bank account with a higher return or interest rate will earn you more money than an account earning a lower interest rate. So it just follows that portfolios made up of stocks with high clean surplus ROEs or return on equity will outperform other portfolios made up of stocks with lower return on equity or interest rate. So think of your bank account when we talk about these stocks. Buffett and Beyond proudly presents to you the good, the bad, and the ugly. And remember, folks, the good stocks should be in our portfolios, the bad stocks should be in somebody else's portfolios, and the ugly stocks should be in nobody's portfolios. Okay, what's our first stock of the day, Debbie?
Alrighty, our first stock is Packaging Corporation of America, and they're the fourth largest producer of containerboard and corrugated products in the United States in terms of production capacity. The revenue breakdown is packaging consists of 82%, paper 16%, and other 2%. Wonder what that other is.
Yeah.
In 2017, it produced 3.9 million tons of containerboard at its mills. Corrugated products manufacturing plants sold about 55.7 billion square feet and have about 14,600 employees.
That's a pretty big company.
It's pretty big.
Yeah. And let's go right in and look at that clean surplus return on equity. And wow, now remember, to get into our growth portfolio, we want to see ROEs of 20% or better. And this thing is supporting a 32.9% clean surplus ROE for 2019. But then come over here and we look at the retention rate, and we see the amount of money it is putting back in the company in order to grow is 63.9% projected for next year. For a growth stock, we want to see 100% retention rate, which means it's a real growth company, but we'll take anything from 80%, 90%, even 70% in some instances. So the first thing we look at here is think maybe this is an income stock. So let's look further. And we look at the dividend, and it's 3.2%, which is pretty nice. Now, about that dividend, in our dividend growth and income portfolio, we want to see the dividend growth rate of 7% or better. And we come over here to dividend growth, and this company far exceeds that 7% because it's projected to grow the dividend 8.3% for next year, and over the past 5 years, 15.8%. So it definitely fits the dividend, and it definitely fits the dividend growth rate. Now, what about the stock growth rate? Because we also want to see our dividend growth and income stocks grow, and we're talking about price appreciation averaging 7 to 8% a year. And how do we find that? Well, we come back here to the clean surplus return on equity of 32%, and clean surplus shows us that a stock can grow under normal market conditions the same rate as the return on equity in a clean surplus condition. However, this stock is putting just 63.9% back into the company in order to grow. So we take the clean surplus return on equity of 32.9%, multiply it by the retention rate of 0.639, and we come out with a 21% stock growth rate potential. Now, that's the highest potential over time. So it meets our 7 to 8% growth rate in that stock. Now, let's see if it has been true. And then we look at the past 12 months, so the past year, and we can see the rusty colored line down here, a negative 20%, while the market is up right about 0% as I'm recording this. So it has not exceeded or even met our growth rate. But let's look back here in the first part of the year, and we can see it was keeping pace with the S&P 500, and then it fell. Well, let's look at a longer term in here, and we're looking at 5 years, and we can see this stock was keeping pace with the S&P, and then all of a sudden took off and was almost doubling the S&P, and folks, it just got too overbought, and now it is in a correction, and it over 5 years, returning a little bit more than the S&P 500. Now, this doesn't count the dividends, so the dividends of over 3% and growing is a pretty good return or total return for this stock. So, Debbie, what's our next stock?
All righty. Next is the Ball Corporation. I'm wondering if they're the mason jar people. But the Ball Corporation.
Good question, yeah.
I'm curious. But Ball Corporation manufactures metal and plastic packaging, 91% of their sales, and primarily for the beverage and food industries. The company also supplies government and commercial customers with aerospace and other high technology products at 9%. Acquired 4 other packaging companies in the past 15 years, and they have about 18,300 employees.
So you know they're growing by acquisition just by acquiring 4 companies in the past 15 years. And let's look at the numbers. And we look at that clean surplus return on equity. It's not the 20% that we want, but it is going up very, very nicely over the past several years. Retention rate, 84% projected for 2019. So right away we start thinking, is this a growth stock? Then we look at the net income growth of 47%, and wow, with the average stock in our database growing the net income, not the earnings, but the net income of 16%, this stock is far outpacing. And then we look at the revenue growth, and it's 8.6% projected for next year, with the average stock in our database growing its revenue about 6%. So this stock looks like a pretty good growth stock, and the only thing is that the years to pay debt is 7.6. And Buffett's rule of thumb is that if a company takes more than 5 years to pay its debt, in other words, if it takes everything it's making in order to pay off its debt, how many years would it take? His rule of thumb is 5. Ours is lower than that. We like to see about a 3-year payback on the debt. So this company has this one kink in the armor. Other than that, it's a pretty good growth stock. Not bad with that ROE going up, retention rate high, net income growth fantastic for next year. That's amazing, folks. So we kind of like this stock, and let's see what it's been doing. Well, the rusty colored line, it's up almost 20%, while the market is up 0% for the year as I'm recording this. And over 5 years, yeah, it's up about 95, 96%, while the market is up about 45%. So it falls in the growth category. Now, here we are in the same industry as Packaging Corp, but one's an income stock and one's a growth stock. So let's see what the next stock is and see if we can find if it's a growth stock or an income stock.
All right. Well, it's either Silgan or Silgan Holdings, or it's more exotic, Silgan.
No clue either.
Silgan. They manufacture consumer goods, packaging products. It produces steel and aluminum containers for human and pet food, metal, composite, and plastic vacuum closures for food and beverage products, and custom-designed plastic containers, tubes, and closures for a variety of end markets. The company operates 100 manufacturing facilities.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a few. And they have about 9,300 employees.
Wow. Okay, so these companies have different target markets, don't they, in their marketing? And we look at the clean surplus return on equity, and it's above the average stock. Now, the average stock projected for 2019 is about 13.7% return on equity. So this is a better than average stock, but it doesn't fit our 20% criteria. And the retention rate is in the 80s or 80% and above, which is good. So we have to think growth stock. Net income growth is below average. Now, remember the average was about 16% for our database. This net income growth is about 12.2%. And when we look at the revenue growth rate of 2%, it is below the average of about 6-point-something%. So we don't like the revenue growth rate. And again, we look at the years to pay debt. And folks, this just does not fit our bill. And it doesn't doesn't have a high enough dividend to get into our dividend growth and income portfolio. How it's done in the past year, we see it's down about a negative 14% with the market at zero. And over 5 years, no, it's underperforming. So we wouldn't consider the stock for either one of our portfolios. Now, we're going to compare Ball with Packaging Corp, and this will give you a good indication of the difference between a growth stock and a growth and income stock. So, with Ball, clean surplus ROE, not 20%, but it's above the average stock of about 13.7%. And the ROE is going up. Now that means the earnings are growing at an increasing rate. In other words, they're not growing just 12% a year. They're growing 12% a year for this year, then expected to grow 16% for 2019. That means the earnings are increasing at an increasing rate. Retention rate, 84%. We like that. Net income growth out of the park, folks. And revenue growth higher than average. So we kind of look at this and say, this is a pretty good growth stock. And then we look at packaging, and right away we say the ROE is really high. However, when we look at the retention rate, it's not putting as much money back into it as Ball is, which means it's not going to grow as fast. Now, the net income growth is about average, just a little touch above average. The revenue growth of 3.8% is a little below average. So we look at Ball, and we would think Ball would definitely outperform Packaging Corp on a price basis. And both of these stocks should outperform Silgan, however it's pronounced. And let's look at the 5 years on those stocks. And Ball is the blue line, and yes, it is absolutely exceeding everybody. Packaging Corp almost kept pace with it until this past year, and then started falling and still outperforming the S&P 500. Now remember, this is not including dividends on this chart. And then Silgan is down below the S&P 500, up only about 5%. Where the market is up about 45%. So the clean surplus return on equity and the revenue growth and the net income growth tell us a lot about a stock that we wouldn't know just by reading about it, that it produces packaging for this company or that type of packaging, and on and on and on. We look at the numbers pretty much tell us everything we need to know, folks.
Well, JB, I think we've just about covered all the questions sent in by our listeners out there in investment land. And remember, folks, we're here to answer your questions not only about individual stocks, but also about the stock market in general. So keep those questions coming, and who knows, we may even answer a question or two you didn't even know you had. And that's about it for today, JB.
Okay, folks, don't forget, if you want to receive a full free month of all our letters and complete access to our computer program, just go to our site, BuffettandBeyond.com, and sign up. Remember, all you need to manage your own portfolio, and it's free. Hey, just go to BuffettandBeyond.com, and remember, Buffett is spelled with 2 F's and 2 T's. That's BuffettandBeyond.com. Okay, folks, we had a great day today.
And tomorrow will be even better.
All right, bye, folks. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
And remember, folks, if you want to live on the beach like Jimmy Buffett, you've got to learn how to invest like Warren Buffett. We've had a good week, folks, and here's hoping that next week will be even better. You have a safe weekend, and we will see you next time.